Today we're going to be going over the ShareFile admin settings. And before we get started, just wanted to say thank you for taking some time out of your day today to join us on this webinar. Here is our agenda for today. We're going to go over some file management, security configurations, some customization options that are available in ShareFile. And then at the end, we're going to go over some helpful tips on maximizing efficiency on the ShareFile account. All right, now let's go to the demo.
All right, so first things first, we're going to go through some of the administrative settings for general file management. And so we'll take a look at the admin settings, and we'll also go into a folder to kind of see what a folder admin would have access to when they have admin. So first things first, we'll go into our settings. And just to preface here, this webinar is for admins. So if you don't have any administrative privileges on the account, you may not see some of these options. If there's something that you're curious about, you can always talk to your actual account administrator to get some of these permissions enabled. So we'll start by going into your settings and admin settings. We're going to go to advanced preferences. And let me actually zoom in a little bit so you can see better. So we'll go into file settings here. This is going to be a general area to manage some of the settings pertaining to file management. So the first things first, we'll kind of run down the list here. Share settings and request settings. So a lot of the main functions of ShareFile are sharing and requesting files. As an administrator, you can actually change what permissions are available for your users when they're actually requesting or sharing those links out to external parties. So you can see here the available permissions. Let's say you did not want any links to be sent out, somewhat anonymously or public, you can think of it as. You can actually turn these options off. So what this requires people to do is actually have an account on your tenant and log in to view the files or upload files to you. If you're okay with having links be able to be accessed by anybody, you can enable these options here depending on what kind of security you'd like behind that. Default settings here. So when a user is actually sending a file out, this is going to say which permission level will be selected as the default. So this just pretty much inherits what you've allowed them to use, but it sets the minimum level. So if you wanted the minimum level of security to be, hey, external parties need to log in when they access this link, you can set that here. If you wanted the default to be just anyone, just a public link anyone can access, you can set the minimum there. But just note when you're setting the minimum and you do have other options available, that user can change those if they want. If they want to just make a public link, they do have the ability to do that. You do have the option to change the default permissions for our Outlook plugin specifically, if you'd like to make those changes there. You can also prevent users from changing their default settings. So if you're familiar with the Outlook plugin, you can actually change those settings on a per user basis by going into that little ShareFile icon within your the top ribbon in Outlook. So you can prevent users from changing those settings. And then the maximum access expiration, if you'd like to set it so that links only last for, let's say, up to 30 days, that will be a maximum that users can set on those links for sharing files and also requesting. So coming down into the request settings, these are pretty much the same options you have. So share settings here, and then for request settings, these are for generating those request links for people to upload files to you. So moving down, we have our default retention policy. So this is a retention policy on the actual files that are stored within your ShareFile account. So you can set this, as long out as you want, to as short as you want, but just note that this is for new files, or I should say new folders. If you have a folder that has something like never and you change this, those will not inherit these retention policies. So this is only for new folders that are created. The files will be automatically deleted to whatever you set here. Sorting, this is pretty straightforward, but it's a default setting for when folders are created. It's how the folders are organized within that folder. So you can do it by name, file size, creation date, or creator, and then ascending or descending. Versioning is going to be how many files are kept of one particular file. So if you have versioning enabled and you upload a document with the same name, essentially it kind of stacks that new file as a separate version. So you can enable or disable this. You can also set how many versions. And again, this is similar to the retention policy here. Setting the versioning is not going to go back to any file and change the versioning. It's going to be for new files. Watermarking here, this is going to be a setting that allows you to overlay some text over a document. And this is a feature that is it's going to require a login, so it won't be for public links. It's going to be for users who log in because it actually collects some information like first name, last name, company, things, email address, things that are actually required for a user in the system. So you can customize the overlay, you can add things, you can add text here, and then you can overlay these merge fields in here as well. Storage quota, that's going to be pretty self-explanatory, but it's a storage quota for personal folders, and it will alert a user if they're approaching the storage limit. Editing, Microsoft editing, if you do have an Office 365 account and you have enable editing, this allows you to open files within ShareFile and edit them using the Microsoft Online services. So the first time you actually go into a file to edit, it will prompt you to log in with your Office account. And once you do, everyone on the account should be able to edit as well. Okay, next thing we're going to take a look at is the storage usage dashboard. And let me switch to an account here. So we have this section here. Now I'm on a different account just to show. This will be under admin settings, storage, and storage usage. So what this does is it's going to give you a total usage of all of your users on the account, and just kind of gives you a nice overview of how much storage your users are using. And then if you'd like to actually clean up the account or recommend the user cleans up their recycle bin or personal folders, what have you, you can actually from here select a user and you can notify them of their usage. And what this will do is it'll send them an email. And I have a sample email of what that looks like. Give me just a second here. It'll look something like this. You may not be necessarily running out of storage, but it just gives the user kind of the understanding that, hey, we need some more storage back. Here's a link directly to your personal folders if you could go in there and clean things up. All right, so then we also mentioned, I mentioned earlier, we'd also take a look at some of the options just to manage files within shared folders. So if you are a account owner or you're a folder admin on a folder, you'll have some extra options that a normal user wouldn't have. So if you're in a folder, you can go up to the three dots at the top, more options. You will be able to view the activity log. So this can give you a detailed report of exactly what's going on in that folder. You can see downloads, things that have been checked out, things that are moving, downloading, all that sort of information. You can also sort it by individual users. So that's nice if you'd like to go in and kind of get an audit log of who's been doing what. You also have it edit advanced folder settings. So if you are a folder admin or you're an account owner, you do have the ability to go in and make some changes. So some of these were shown in the file settings when we looked at the admin settings. So you can change the expiration. So this folder will be deleted after a certain date. You can change the file retention policy outside of the default, system-wide one that may have been set. The file versioning, same thing. You can apply the account-wide default, or you can change it for this folder specifically. So it really just gives you more control over the files within this folder. And of course, going down the list here, you can change the sort, folder templates, which we'll get into a little bit later. And then if you have multiple storage zones, or if you have an on-prem and a cloud storage zone, you do have the ability to kind of move these files around to another storage location. So that's there for admins as well. So those are some of the main things I wanted to highlight today, just as an administrator. There's all sorts of other options you have within the admin settings. If you are an admin, I definitely recommend going through there and just kind of going through each option one by one. The next section I want to touch on is some of the security options. So give me a sec here. So the first thing we'll take a look at is your password requirement for users logging into the account. So we'll go in and actually switch accounts here, admin settings, and we'll go into the security dropdown. The first thing we'll look at is password requirements. So what you're looking at here is the default ShareFile password complexity, which is going to be 8 characters. It's going to require a one number, one special character. So a lot of organizations might need to change this. So this is where you'll come in. I know, if it were my account, I would probably set this to like a 13 or 14 character just to be more secure and kind of fit to some of the standards that are put out. So you can come in here and change how many characters the password is, numbers, special characters, and then how many days the password will stay live before it is required to change. And then also the last option here, you can set how many passwords back they can't reuse. So great place to really make your security heightened if you'd like to change these options here. Next thing we'll take a look at within the settings here is two-factor authentication. So two-factor is going to be when you sign up for an account, you log into a device you haven't logged into. The ShareFile system is going to require an extra verification step. So when you're first creating an account, it'll be a phone number to provide a secure code via SMS or voice call. Once you've actually created that, you can go into your own personal settings and you can set up an authenticator app, or you can add a different phone number if you'd like. So those can be configured after the fact, but two-step is going to be there for when you first set up your account if it is turned on. So this option here, two-step verification, can be turned on and required for employee users. And if you wanted to take a step further and really heighten your security posture, you can actually turn that on for client users as well, just to make sure that any of those client users that are logging in to access documents is actually who they say they are. Just adds another layer of security there. Moving down here, we've got auth timeout. So you can have users automatically get signed out after a certain number of minutes or hours for inactivity. And then also your reauthentication token, you can have this set and change to how many times that user will need to reauthenticate and log in to refresh that token. So and just kind of backing up, this is also for the ShareFile applications. So if you have, let's say, the ShareFile for Windows or ShareFile for Outlook application, this also applies to those tools as well. So keep that in mind. Single sign-on. So what we were talking about up top was more the password, the native ShareFile login. If you are using a identity provider for your organization, you have a SAML 2.0 configuration, you can apply that here. And we have all the options here. We also have the ability to require single sign-on for employee users. So our new login flow, when users hit your login page, they type in their email address, it will check the system to see if they are an employee, and if single sign-on is enabled and required, we'll redirect them to the identity provider to log in. So all the configuration can be done here under login and security policy. Next thing I wanted to highlight is the edit super user group. So some of you on the call may be account owners, you may be admin on certain folders. The super user group is a group of users that has access to all files and folders on the account. It does not necessarily mean that they are ShareFile admins. They may not be able to change some of the settings that we were going through earlier, but they do have access to all files and folders. So very important, but it's this group is here for you to give those elevated privileges to users. And if you wanted to hide this group from a folder, because it's going to show by default, you may not want users to, see that, hey, who is this super user group and who's in that accessing my files? You can hide the super user group from the folder access list by checking the button here. So this is, be very limited on who gets this. Like I said, they have access to all files and folders. The last thing I want to touch on on the security side is going to be the security alert settings. This is a fairly newer feature, but it's really handy for really identifying and remediating those security threats to your account. And those are going to be, let me go to my other account here. So we'll start by going into settings, zoom in, we'll go into admin settings, and then we'll go to security, and we'll go to security alert settings. So security alert settings are going to be sent out to how this is configured to admins, the actual employee who the alert is triggering from, and then also you can configure it for clients. So you can see we do have 4 options here, and this over time will grow as this feature expands. If a user is signing in from a different country, they're signing in from a different city using a different device, or there's multiple failed login attempts, or even a suspicious file, maybe that's flagged by our antivirus scan, is being uploaded to a folder, an automatic notification will be sent to these users. And you can configure, if you don't want the employee to see that notification, you just want the admins, you could come in here and turn it off. And for an admin, when they get the notification, they can simply go into the account. There should be a link that you get in the email to go into the account and actually remediate that, log them out, force them to change their password, etc. So this is important for security reasons. And right now, how it's set up here is just the account owner can receive those alerts. If we were to turn these off, they would be the only one. If you wanted to select additional users, maybe you have some other members of your IT team or security team that needs these alerts, you can also come in here and you can add additional users to receive those. So those are the important ones that we wanted to talk about today. Like I said, it's important to go through and really, my recommendation would be to go into the admin settings if you are an admin and go through each of these settings and just kind of see what, if the default is set, or maybe it needs to be modified, maybe you haven't logged into your account in a while and you just need to make some changes or keep it up to date. Highly recommend going through all those options there. So I will send it back over to Tepe and we'll continue on here.
All right, so I am going to go over customization. So I've got my ShareFile account here, and to customize the look of your ShareFile account, first thing before we get started, let me go over just some of the content here too. The admin overview stuff has your account name, who owns your ShareFile account. You'll see it right here under account owner. Whether you have HIPAA compliance enabled, that'll be right here as well too. And if you want to enable HIPAA, that'll be an available option there. And then the plan type is shown right here inside your ShareFile account too. Okay. Now for customizing your ShareFile account, you'll want to go into company account info and go to edit company branding. First thing you'll see here is going to be the name of your ShareFile account. So that's going to show up right here at the top of your browser. The name of your ShareFile account. Same here as well. If you want it to be different from what your account name is, then you can do that differently here as well too. And if you need more controls, and which I think 90% of people do want this, is to click on the advanced appearance options, and then it'll give you all these different options for the different pages within ShareFile. So for example, if you expand the browser option, you still have that page title that we just showed and the favicon. If you wanted to change the little tiny icon in your browser tab, then you can change that here as well. Under the headers option, you've got, again, the logo right here, as well as the background colors or any of the background image that you want to change in this white space. On the page option, you again have accent colors. And if you need to do any modifications to the login page, then it is going to show up in here. Now for the login page, you have a custom logo, custom background color, and a background image. So when you go to your, let me just log out here real quick. When you go to your login page, what you're looking at, these images, these icons that you have here, you can modify those. Go back in there. All right. And another thing you can also change is any of the ShareFile notifications that go out to you. You can make some text modifications in there to add additional text in the ShareFile notifications as well. And then at the bottom, we also give you the option to add 3 additional subdomains to the account. So for example, we have webinar demo and webinar test here. On the last one here, I could add Greg loves ShareFile. And if it's available, we'll be able to hit save there. Okay, the next items I wanted to go over is about maximizing efficiency within your ShareFile account. So the first item I wanted to talk about is going to be user provisioning. So user provisioning in ShareFile, if you're doing it manually, you're going to go into the people section. You're going to hit browse clients. And then from here, you're going to hit create employees, and you have to go through this whole process. If you wanted to do additional users, you can create multiple users like this, right? And when you expand the user access section, you can see all the different admin permissions that you can give to your ShareFile users. Now, in these permissions, you have things like, this top one, which grants admin permission to all your ShareFile users. Not all your ShareFile users. It gives them admin permission to your ShareFile account. The second one, which is usually on by default, but my recommendation is to turn it off, is the ability to create root level folders in that shared folder section. I typically recommend that only the admins on the ShareFile account create the root level folders, and then a standard employee user is just given access to those root level folders and even given maybe admin permission to them. And that way, um, you don't get as much clutter at the root level, and you can manage how the ShareFile account is actually being used. And again, personal file box. This one I would recommend it as enabled as well too, just because if you're doing quick sharing, any of those files are going to be using the file box items. Now, I saw a question on this earlier, but accessing other users' file boxes and sent to items. In order to access this, you need to have permissions into the super user group. So if you give any users that access there, make sure they've been added to the super user group as well. Now, these e-signature permissions, pretty self-explanatory. Ability to use e-signature, use the templates in e-signature. The people section here, managing clients, managing employees. The employees on your ShareFile account, any employee users on your ShareFile account will always have the ability to create client users. The manage client user is just going to give them permission to review the client users, make any modifications to the client users, those kind of things. All right, let's see. Company account info, pretty self-explanatory there as well. Ability to change the single sign-on settings, editing the branding on the ShareFile account. One thing to note about the single sign-on settings, if you enable single sign-on, and let's say your ShareFile account's SAML configuration breaks, then one thing to note is that the admins will always have ability to log into the ShareFile account using ShareFile password just to bypass that single sign-on and repair your single sign-on settings. Billing information, connectors for managing third-party connections or on-prem connections, storage zones if you're using on-prem storage zones like on-prem storage. And then finally at the end, we have also advanced preferences for additional features that you might be using within your ShareFile account. Now that you've seen all this, now let me go in and talk about more about the automatic user provisioning, right? So we have a tool called the user management tool that you would install in AD. And so again, this is a little bit more on the enterprise side, but figured most customers are using AD and single sign-on. So if you want to provision your users based off of AD groups and such, you would install the user management tool. And the user management tool comes in two flavors. One with just auto provisioning of users into ShareFile with some standard settings. The second one is going to be basically with what some people would call role-based access controls, or in our terms, it'd be called policy management. And so in the admin settings, we're going to have this policies tab. If you don't have it enabled, just make sure you contact your customer success engineer or technical support, and they'll be able to enable it for you. So in here, you can see user access, file and folder management, just like you did in the creating of a employee user. But now we've got this default policy here. And if you edit it, you can see all the different permission sets that I was just talking about earlier. And so what ShareFile could do is when it's provisioning users based on Active Directory, then it can take these policies and apply it to those users. And once with the user management tool, you can also create what's called distribution groups. And so with distribution groups, you can create members of the group with, let's say, for example, um, a loan department. You can lump everybody in the loan department into your distribution group, or based on your Active Directory group, security groups, and then apply these user groups to the folders and make managing permissions to your ShareFile account a little bit easier. So I also mentioned bulk creation of users. So if you wanted to create bulk client users or wanted to create bulk folders inside of ShareFile and associate folders, users to those folders, we do have a bulk creation option inside of ShareFile, but you just want to contact our technical support team to handle that for you. What our technical support team will do is you just hand them a report that has the list of folders and the list of clients that you want to get added to the ShareFile account, and then the technical support team can create those folders for you. And then lastly, if you're interested in building out any kind of automation, we do also have API. So api.sharefile.com is going to list all our documentation around our API. And then we also do have like the ShareFile PowerShell SDK that allows you to create PowerShell scripts. Well, yeah, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us on the admin webinar.
Yep. Likewise. Thanks for joining us today, and hope you guys learned something. So until next time.
Yep. Bye, guys.